Yep, this is really Jeopardy. We're really doing it. This is Cin7's Daily Double. I'm so excited to have all of you here and excited to introduce you to our team today, who's going to be running you through our holiday aftermath category episode. It's What is Returns, Profiting, and Price Strategy. Today, we have two amazing hosts with us. I'm obviously biased, but I'm the third, and I think I'm pretty decent too. The first up, we've got Sierra Rogers. You can meet your ERP and IMS expert. She's got 13 years of experience in tech. Sierra leads the product strategy here at Cin7. She tackles every challenge like a Jeopardy champion, and her focus is to develop smart solutions that keep manufacturing and inventory management running smoothly and keeping customers coming back. So thank you, Sierra, for joining us. And then
Yeah.
we've Ken Fike with us today. He is going to be our other co-host expert. Ken is a representative from Octane. He is Octane's ERP partnerships guru, and he's all about boosting e-commerce with ERP, EDI, and iPaaS. And then me, I am your clue master today. My name is Lauren Cassidy. I'm part of the Cin7 marketing team, and I'm here to make sure that the questions keep coming, the competition stays fierce, and the game stays as exciting and quick moving as possible. Here's the rules of the game. There are just 3 rules, nothing too crazy, but just so you know, throughout the game, there will be questions and polls that are going to pop up. We ask for you to participate in those and take your best guess and answer honestly. You don't have to be afraid to ask questions. There is a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. As we're going through, please don't hesitate. Ask any questions that come up. But again, this is a 30-minute webinar, so if for some reason we don't get your question answered today, please be rest assured we will follow up with you after. In the interest of just making sure everyone is prepared for the polls and you're ready to do it, I'm going to just launch a test sample poll. So you should see that on your screen right now. And if you want to go ahead and take a few seconds to answer, what's your secret weapon for surviving the holiday inventory rush? All right, I'm going to end the poll in the interest of time, but I will share the results with all of you. It looks like we kind of have a tie. It looks like we're all kind of just hoping to survive the holiday season across the board. And I get that, and I fully support it. And we're going to try and help you do that as best as possible today. So with all that said, let's get into the game. Let's start with our first category, which is avoiding overstock. We are going to start with our first question and our first prompt. This percentage of typical SMB's inventory becomes overstock after the holiday season. Give you a couple seconds to answer that one. I know that goes really fast, but I am going to end the poll. We did get a lot of participants, so thank you so much. Let's see what our answer was. A lot of you had your money on 25%. The actual answer is what is D, 75%. So let's dive into that a little bit more. This is all based on a Cin7 study. And again, up to 70 or about 75% of inventory in this study was considered overstock. The lowest percentage of overstock for one of the companies was 49%, which means the companies with the least amount of overstock were still buying almost twice as much of the product that they needed. Sierra, let's talk about that. How can we avoid it? Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and you're asking the right question. How can we avoid it? Like, how did we get in this mess if that's the case? And how can we make sure it doesn't happen again, right? Because overstock is something that can really sneak up on a business, especially if their forecasting tools or their strategies, they just keep hitting or missing the mark, right? So let's talk about two different methods or approaches that can avoid both overstock, but also understock or stockouts, right? The first method is something that's a little bit more traditional that we've been using for a long time, and that's called reorder points. So this is whenever you set a minimum inventory level for a product. So you want to keep this many of the product on the shelf all the time. And anytime it dips below that quantity, you want to go ahead and reorder. You want to place a purchase order with your supplier so that you can stock your shelves back up with that product, right? So here at Cin7, let me give you an example. If I sell water bottles, right? Sorry, the background kind of took it away. But if I sell this water bottle and maybe I want to keep 100 of them on the shelf all the time because it's a popular water bottle, I want to set it up in Cin7 so that if I dip below 100, the system automatically like notifies me or suggests, hey, it's time to place a purchase order with your supplier. And based on that product, you said you want to order 8,000 of them so that you really stock your shelves back up with your popular water bottle. Now, here's the tricky part is you've got to be constantly analyzing your data to make sure, like, what are the sales trends? What's the sales history with this product? Am I actually selling that many? How long does it take to sell that 8,000 water bottles? Are my lead times accurate? You know, you've got to be in charge of monitoring all of that. So that is the traditional or the method that businesses have been using for a long time. But with the power of technology and now Foresight AI here at Cin7, we can actually take that accuracy even further and analyze that data for you to make sure that you're making data-driven decisions for when to reorder things, right? So I was actually talking with Lauren the other day and joking about how Foresight AI, it's kind of like that friend who tells you when you have broccoli in your teeth. You know, it's something you may not want to hear at the time, but you need to hear it. You might need to hear, hey, you don't need to be ordering 8,000 of these water bottles. You're not selling nearly as many as you think you are. Or your supplier, they're actually taking 2 weeks to fill that. So you need to expand when you're ordering it because your lead time's taking longer. So really, Foresight AI is there to look out for you and help you make those business-driven decisions based on data and facts, not just feelings, right? So let's move into like the next poll. I'm really curious, where does everyone stand with their forecasting tools and their demand forecasting? Like, how are you doing it? Do you have a tool that you're using? You know, do you have a magic 8 ball that you're kind of relying on? Or is it, you know, this is a New Year's resolution item for me. I'm here for this content today.
Go ahead and give you just one more second to fill out that poll.
I love the honesty. So thank you, everybody. Like,
All right, folks, let's go ahead and end the poll. It looks like, Sierra, some people have something and it helps them avoid their last minute panic, which is great. But it looks like another whole portion of you don't have anything and it's on your list. And it's really good to know and to be aware of as we move forward and as we talk more with you and understand what your needs are. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and move us into the next category, which is speedy orders and fulfillment. So for e-commerce businesses, this is the primary advantage of using automated shipping platforms. You should see that now. Giving a little more time for this one. A lot of words on this one. I'll give you a few more seconds. All right. Let's go ahead and end this poll. Let's see, for e-commerce businesses, this is the primary advantage. A lot of you got this one right. Great job. It's B. They suggest shipping carriers and box sizes based on weight and dimensions. All right, Sierra, I'm going to head this over to you. Let's talk a little bit about more about efficient fulfillment.
Yeah, so the fulfillment, it's that part of the process where you're dealing with the pick and the pack as well as the ship, which we were just talking about in the poll there, right? So whether your orders are coming in through maybe an e-com site, or maybe it's a marketplace or B2B, maybe you're doing it over the phone, whatever the case might be, these orders are coming into your warehouse and they need to be fulfilled, right? So here at Cin7, we've got the warehouse management system, or the WMS. We've got it as a mobile app, and you can also manage some of this in the browser. But let's actually start with that pick stage. So the picker is the person that's actually going to walk around your warehouse floor with probably a cart of some sort with some totes on it or bags. And their job is to go through and pick the items off of the shelf, put them into the totes, keep them organized, and to fulfill those orders, right? So they're grabbing the products off the shelves. So personally, I do a lot of order ahead online shopping for things like groceries and even Target. And it's not just to keep me in budget and like keep me from like grabbing all the little things at the checkout line, right? But it's also because I like to think about this when I'm working because it saves me time, right? And it saves me, like I said, it keeps me in budget. But the reason it saves me time is that person is going through the aisles and they're only picking the items off of the shelf, and they're doing it in the most efficient way possible. So we can actually set it up in Cin7 so that the person is going through and they're picking, say my vegetables, and then the fruits and the salads, and they're not then going over and getting my frozen pizzas and then coming back for some apples. They're doing it in a very succinct manner, right? Which is great depending on the layout of your warehouse. But anywho, so here in Cin7, you can actually assign the pickers, like say I assign Lauren, go pick this order for me. And she would go through and gather all those items, put them in the cart. And then whether it's FIFO, which is first in, first out, or first expired, first out, which is FIFO, we can use either of those methods to make sure that we're getting the right products in that cart. And maybe you do batch or lot products, or maybe you have serial numbers on your products. All of that we honor so that you've got the traceability on the products when they're put into the carts and the totes for order fulfillment. So now, my picker has gone through, picked all of the products, put them in the cart, and now they're going to take it over to the pack station. So now we've moved from pick to pack. Now we've got all of our products to fulfill the sales order on our cart. So now we're actually going to start packing those into a box and prepare them for the shipment. So the packer here, they're just going to make sure that they're doing it as efficiently as possible, that they're getting as many items in one box, or maybe they have to split it into separate boxes. They're just trying to make it as efficient as possible and as safe as possible so that nothing gets damaged in the shipping. But the goal here is to have a flexible enough system to reduce the errors, both in your inventory and in the shipping process, having quicker shipments so that you can just kind of apply what happened in the sales order to the pick list and apply that to the packing list, right? And like I was talking about with the serialization of things, that you want to have that traceability of your products in those boxes. So that was your pick stage. You've now packed all of your products into these boxes. So with that, I'm going to actually ship it over to Ken to take it from there.
I see what you did there. So this is where we come in. So a shipping platform like ShipStation, this is really our strength, right? Because you've just done all this hard work that you've been listening to this whole process, right? From your inventory to the order to all this. It needs to get shipped correctly. Otherwise, there really is no point of doing any of this, right? And so this is where we pull in all the relevant information, all that sales order data, everything that you just did comes into ShipStation. You can automate this as fully as you want, right? You can, if you really want, you could do it completely manual, or you can have things, your weights, your DIMs, your carriers, the level of service, all of this stuff auto-populated. You can do bulk label printing. So these people can just slap the label on the boxes and you can get it out. This is a really important thing that a lot of people overlook, because there's a dirty little secret in e-commerce that no one talks about. And that is, of the people surveyed of why they repeat orders, why they do business with customers, almost 90% of them said that shipping directly impacts their decision to buy again, right? And if you think about it, we're looking at how fast we can get things there, or the cost of delivery, all those things come into play. What's also interesting, and if we go back and think about the stock outs or the overstocks that we just mentioned, how do those get created? A lot of it is from how many orders you're getting, right? And Sierra talked about that a minute ago. So if you think about these websites, whether it's Amazon, eBay, Etsy, any of them, there's an algorithm that's going to, outside of paid sponsorships, but it's going to push you closer to the top. The closer you are to the top, the more opportunity for sales. It's a very simple equation. And for anyone old like me, it's just like the yellow pages back in the day. Well, when you start getting complaints, which is the number one complaint you get is on delivery, you start dropping, which means your sales go down, which means you now have overstock. But it also works in the inverse. You start doing well and shipping better and shipping more efficiently, you start rising up because you start getting 5-star reviews. And now you're understocked. So there's a lot of pieces of this that you got to think about. But again, it's everything working in harmony. And that's what ShipStation does with Cin7 in terms of pulling in the information. We do our piece to help you put that label on the box and get it out the door and fulfill that delivery promise, but also sending that information back into Cin7, which is your system of truth, to where everyone has access to it, can track the order and see everything's been complete. So
I think you bring up a lot of really good points, Ken, and kind of the overarching theme that I'm hearing is that there's so much to balance and so much going on. So sometimes when you have like a ShipStation, a Cin7, you have other entities to rely on, especially in a chaotic time like the holidays or whatever your busy season is.
Yep.
So that you don't have to worry about these almost 90% of people that won't come back if they have a bad shipping experience. So I think that's really interesting and definitely worth repeating. What I would love to know and just pull all of you on is what you think your biggest barrier in your order fulfillment process is. We've got a couple options for you, and maybe none of these fit, maybe all of these fit. You can select as many as you would like. But I would be interested to know, is it tracking inventory, assigning tasks, packing in general, it's hard and your staff is having a hard time with it? Or is it shipping? Is that really what you're coming down to, and that you don't have a reliable shipment process? I'll give you a couple more seconds. I just talked your ear off, so take your time. Give y'all a couple more seconds for that guy. Yeah, this is really interesting to see. So I will go ahead and end the poll, but it looks like so many of you, I would say about 65% of you are saying that tracking inventory is where you're struggling the most, but a close second and a close third is really assigning tasks and packing, kind of all of the things that we've talked about, and shipping in as well, and making sure that you have a reliant entity that you can work with on that. We're going to go ahead and move into our third category. That was very interesting for me to see really what you all feel is holding you back. Let's go ahead and share this screen. Let's go into business operations and let's get ready to close this guy out. So our next question, the average monthly revenue lost due to understock or returns during the post-holiday season. Let me go ahead and launch that for you.
I feel like that's such a good question because it's the revenue lost due to understock that, you don't have the products on your shelf, which means you're missing out on opportunities for those sales orders. Ah, man, this is a lot of money you're leaving on the table.
Throwing away money.
Yeah, even the lowest of this one is $5,000, which is not a small amount of money.
And it's a monthly revenue. It's not, yeah.
But it's also that customer's never going to look at you again to buy something.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end this poll. Oh, sorry, that was YouTube. That wasn't me. Clearly not a part of Jeopardy. We will keep moving into the answer, which is $30,000. Surprisingly, about half of you got that right, and I'm wondering if you guessed it because it is such a shocking number. Let's talk about it, Sierra. Let's really dive in here. How do we avoid this?
Yeah. So I don't know if there's so much that we can avoid. We can avoid it by setting those reorder points, analyzing our data, using tools like Foresight AI, using processes that keep us efficient, like the pick, pack, and ship, and using integrations to make our workflows as efficient as possible. But no matter what industry you're in, returns are going to happen, right? In fashion and apparel, returns are kind of rampant because people will buy the 3 sizes, of the jeans because they don't know which ones are going to fit, and 2 of them are going to get returned. So it's kind of an inevitable thing. Some industries might say, I don't really have returns because I'm in food and beverage, but it can and it does happen, especially if there's recall issues or anything that you need that traceability insight on. So, what do we do? It's kind of, once we're in this situation, once we have returns, what do we do with it? How do we make it as efficient as possible to help reduce those costs that are associated with returns, right? So at Cin7, we have what's called an RMA portal, Returns Merchandise Authorization Portal. And what this does is it allows your customers to then go log onto a web page, and then they're going to submit a request to return something. And it could be something they bought on a Shopify site or Etsy or Amazon, or maybe at a pop-up or B2B or over a phone. Like, no matter how they got the product from you, they can go to that website and say, hey, for one reason or another, I want to return this product. Maybe it's damaged, or maybe it was the wrong color was sent. Oops, or what have you. So the customer can submit, hey, I want to return this. And then once it's approved, the customer will send that product back to your warehouse. Then the warehouse workers can actually review that product. Can we restock it? Can we just resell it, right? So does it go back into inventory, or can we repair it? Maybe it has a scratch on the glass of your watch, that you're selling. So maybe we can repair it and refurbish it. Maybe it's some other, they just want credit back, whatever the case might be, right? So once the warehouse worker reviews the product, they make that decision, and then they can go through and either have an automated return or some credits back to the customer. All of that's happening in Cin7, and the end customer there can get notifications of updates related to their return. So these custom workflows are actually helping businesses decide, should the product be restocked, maybe transferred, maybe it's a QA issue that we need to investigate. But ultimately, the purpose of this RMA portal is to save you time and reduce those costs. And then I'll hand it back to Lauren.
Yeah, there's one more poll I'd love to do before I hand it over to Ken to talk about, there's the initiating of returns, and then we have to talk about how it's actually handled. But I'm really curious about how all of you are handling your returns, or if you have a plan for it right now. So I will go ahead and launch this for you. How are you handling it during the holiday chaos? Is it a manual process, like the good old spreadsheet? Is it an RMA system, like Sierra's already mentioned? Are you outsourcing it and making it somebody else's problem, which is fair? Or are you exploring other options? Are you looking for a fairy godmother that can fix it? Are you trying to find some direction there? I will give you all a couple more seconds to answer that one. But I'm very interested to see kind of what the overall consensus is, because there are a lot of ways to handle what could be partially the most chaotic piece of the holiday season. I'll go ahead and end that. It looks like a lot of you are doing this manually, which sounds kind of exhausting. Full respect, I don't know, I'm not a business owner, but what I would say is that it does sound like it's kind of a hefty piece to manage. And then you're thinking about how you're actually putting that into play. And I think, Ken, that's a great time to turn it over to you.
Yeah. So when you think of returns, I mean, it's a cost, right? And so depends on if it's completely being returned and you're just keeping the issue, or you got to mail them a new one out. Either way, there are times, especially if obviously if they're returning it and not getting anything, you just lost the sales order and you paid for shipping twice. But even if you're sending it out, you're expediting it. And so now you're paying shipping it twice and paying, or actually 3 times. So it kills your profit margin. I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, the best way to approach returns is to try to prevent as many as possible. You'll never get to 0, but if you're at 10%, can you get it to 5%, right? That's the easiest path. The other thing, as I mentioned earlier, when these people are writing complaints about delivery, they don't write FedEx or UPS. They leave it on your Amazon account. Like that's how it works. You get the bad review, not the carrier. So at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, you need to own this process because it's yours, whether you like it or not. And so one of the things that we can do is we can actually give you a branded tracking portal. It's free to use inside of ShipStation, but you can set up the portal to return. You can also set the tracking emails to where it's all your branding and all of that good stuff to where it's not sending them to a carrier page. You can actually own it, make them feel part of the experience that you're there trying to help them out. Very positive effects from a branding standpoint. But again, with inside ShipStation and just pure cost, automate it. Send them the return label, or you can have it again with the portal, whether it's ours or Cin7 that does the same thing. And more importantly, you can use our rates that we have with carriers. So even if you love one carrier, use our rates. And maybe there's lower rates because you're not concerned with how fast you get it back. Most of the time, you just need it back. So you can be able to at least lower the cost that you're spending on these double shipments. So that helps as well.
I think there's a lot of good things that we touched on there. But I kind of want to bring it home with our daily double first, because I think this really wraps us up in a really great space. And it's looking like we're going to end on time, which is a win in itself. So let's go ahead and get to the daily double. This percentage of businesses say that post-holiday return rates cause major cash flow disruptions. Let's go for it, everybody.
You know what, Lauren? This actually leads to our next webinar in this series that's all about like Cin7 Capital.
Oh, yeah.
So if you are having major cash flow disruptions, stay tuned for our next webinar.
That wasn't even a planned plug,
No,
Sarah. Love
it
that.
wasn't. Just light bulb moment. I had all the coffee in the world this morning. Like,
Well, I'm very proud of that. And it's very interesting to see. So most of you thought that it was 35%. Let's see if you're right. It's 70%, which is a shockingly high number. And it can feel a little bit discouraging. But I think what's great about everyone that's here, and really what's great about talking with Sarah and Ken, is that you can't completely ignore the disruption, right? There is going to be some struggles in the holiday, but if you can get ahead of it and plan and automate, you're going to put yourself in a really strong position to have a great holiday season. And that can be not just in this current holiday, but year round, whatever your peak seasons are, if you can start thinking about how are you going to use your best shipping automation? What kind of returns management are you using? These are things that I think can really set you ahead and give you a little peace of mind as you move into those high moving seasons. So that's how I would land this and leave this. Ken, Sierra, do either of you have any updates, any other things that you want to touch on?
Plan accordingly is all I would say. The data is out there. You got the information to do it, and you have the tools to do it, and there's plenty of time to get it going.
Well, I think, Sierra, unless you have anything else.
no, I was thinking the same thing. And if you need help with those tools, we're here to talk about your business and how we can get those tools set up for you, and tell you if you have broccoli in your teeth. So yeah.
And that's the friends you need, really. We will be sending out follow-up resources for all of you. And as Sierra mentioned, there are 2 more webinars in this series that really hone in on, I think, some key business operation needs that you will want to be a part of. So we'll follow up with all of you via email, but it's 11 o'clock in Mountain Time, and we crushed it perfectly on time.
Awesome.
Thank you all so much, Ken, Sierra. Thank you for joining us. Everybody have a great day.
You too. Bye.